What's up guys, my name is Komar, and today we're building a loft bed. But not only a loft bed, we're also building a movie theater down here below it so the kids can watch movies anytime they want. So let's have some fun with it. Welcome to the Komar project. How am I gonna do this? Oh boy. Having young daughters that are always asking dad to make them things, it's awesome. But sometimes they just come up with the craziest things, like this loft bed with a movie theater, which has its own challenges in design. So I'm gonna try to make it as simple as possible. For the leg structure, I went with pine 4x4s, which are actually 3.5 by 3.5 inches. And for me, that was a little bulky, so I trimmed them down on the table saw down to 3 inches. Since there's a lot of components in this bed, like all the poplar support pieces, and it's hard to cover all of them in a short video, I'm throwing in a set of free hand-drawn plans to hopefully help any of you who are wanting to take something on like this. Link in the description. Alright, so I got my stretchers cut, and basically I'm gonna laminate these 1x's together, and I made one of them a little bit longer by 1 inch, so that's gonna be my tenon. It's gonna slip right into those posts and make it super secure. Ain't gonna have no kids falling out. All right, so now all we gotta do is just glue them together and cut some mortises. To cut the slots in the posts, I made a quick jig using some scrap wood, and then using a flush trim bit on my router, I plunged deeper with each pass. Then I can chisel out the corners and used a replica of the stretcher tenon to make sure the fit is nice and tight. You don't want any slop here. This is the foundation for everything else. Okay, moment of truth. Time to see if all these mortises and tenons actually work together. And do we have a bed or do we just have 4x4s? Alright, so we're going to be joining these aprons to the post with pocket holes. Not only do we have it mortise and tenon in there, we're also going to be using pocket holes. So down the road, we can actually disconnect this thing and move it if we want to. What you have to do is be mindful of where you're placing your pocket holes, because you don't want them coming together exactly at the same point. So if you just offset them a little bit, you'll be fine. Pocket holes are probably the easiest way to assemble furniture, but sometimes they get a bad rap for not being true woodworking joinery. But if you ask me, if it works, then who cares? And to make things even easier, I'm using a self-adjusting pocket hole jig from Armor Tool. It adjusts to the thickness of the wood and gives you a perfectly spaced pocket hole every time. This part. Pocket holes! Yeah! Pocket holes. To prevent the post from shifting inward or outward over time, I needed to put in some support pieces at the bottom and top of the bed. Then for the stub post, I laminated 3 boards together, with one of them being longer. I used some brad nails to hold it in place while the glue dried, and attached it to the front of the stretcher with some 2-inch screws. Alright, so we got the frame pretty much done. However, I made it way too big because I'm putting a couch inside of here. So the bed only goes to right about there. What I'm gonna do is frame this thing in pretty much like a deck. And we're gonna have a beam laminated just like here that runs the span here, and then we're gonna have ourselves joists. We're gonna have some joists. Weird. But little ones, little baby joists. Let's do it. 6 feet, 5 inches and a half. Fuel up, ladies and gents, fuel up. For the mini joists, or what normal people call bed slats, I ripped some poplar pieces to 1.5 inches and placed them every 8 inches with spacers in between. This will prevent the slats from shifting and will allow me to screw the platform all the way around the bed frame, tying everything together. So the platform is all in and it fits really tight, which is great. Next, we're gonna be building some cubes on the back side of this thing so that, you know, the kids can store stuff in there. And to do that, we're just gonna use 3/4 inch plywood and some pneumatic hinges that kind of flap open. But we need to first raise the cubes because the kids have a 12-inch mattress, which I forgot to measure. So let's do that. The storage compartment and the platform that it sits on, I use simple construction of butt joints reinforced with glue and brad nails. And for the hardware, I'm using European style hinges with some gas strut lifts that are gonna help lift the doors as they open and keep them up. I got these off of Amazon and I'm gonna have a link to them plus all the other hardware that I used in this project in the video description below. All right, so now that we got the cubes up there, it's time to do something about the front. And I got an idea, I think. Alright guys, we got ourselves a door and it glides awesome. I'm loving this hardware. The next step is gonna be to cut out a window in this thing. And my kid wanted a square, I wanted a circle, so we put a poll out on Instagram and she is pissed because dad won and we're gonna have a circle. So if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, make sure you guys go ahead and do that because I put polls out like this. I communicate with all the viewers out there and we're gonna have a circle window. Let's do it. Circle, 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 circle. So the circle was a bit of a head scratcher for me at first because I've never done anything like this. So I created a 3/4 inch template out of 1/4 inch plywood that will allow me to create the opening and the trim for this window. After getting the rough cutout, I temporarily nailed the template to the door and used the flush trim bit to refine the opening. And to match the front wall, I glued and nailed 6-inch wide plywood strips with a 1/4 inch spacer in between them to give the appearance of vertical shiplap. Now, I'm not a huge fan of shiplap, but this gives the front of the bed a little bit more visual depth in my opinion. To make the trim for the window, I glued together some regular 2x8s and then temporarily nailed the template to it and cut off the axis at the bandsaw. Next, I could use the template as a guide and flush trim the rest with a router. Since I need this trim to be an inch wide, I marked a line 1/4 inch from the template and used the jigsaw to cut out the middle. Then I refined the shape on the spindle sander, and here you can see that 1/4 inch offset. This is the part of the trim that is actually going to sit over the door. After gluing the front and inside pieces of the trim, which was all one piece, I used the actual template as the trim for the back of the door. Whoa! Let's not drop it. It's been through a lot already. Originally, I was going to put a desk here. She already has a desk that she really likes. So I think I'm just going to do a shiplap wall. Yeah, I said shiplap again. It's growing on me. Shiplap! Open. And success! We got a movie theater. Next, I needed to figure out the angle of the ladder, and after much debate with myself, I went with a 5-degree angle away from the bed. And I didn't think that poplar would be strong enough to withstand years of up and down by the kids, so I ended up going with red oak on this one. After cutting a 5-degree bevel on the bottom, I needed to connect a vertical offset that will give the door the space to slide underneath it. And a corner bridle joint will give me plenty of glue surface area to make sure that the connection is strong. And a bridle joint is kind of like a mortise and tenon joint having a baby with a tongue and groove joint. And that baby has the best of both worlds. It's strong, easy to cut on the table saw or a router, and in my opinion, it just looks better than the both of them. Then I used a scrap piece of plywood to set up a router template for the ladder runs. I just clamped it all to my workbench and used the pattern bit to cut the slots for each one. Just make sure you remember to cut the slots as mirror images of each other, taking that 5-degree angle into consideration. After routing out the slots in the posts for the ladder to sit in, I clamped my belt sander to my workbench and rounded over the bridle joints. Then with a 1/4-inch roundover bit, I gave the ladder some soft curves all the way around. And with a quick test to make sure it held my weight, I broke down the entire bed and we're ready for the prep work. Alright guys, now that I got all of my parts disassembled, everything's labeled, I know where everything goes, it's time to start bondoing this. And the reason why I'm using Bondo is it's super easy to work with. It's a 2-part product where you have the actual Bondo and you have the hardener in a little tube. You squeeze out just a tiny little bit, you mix it in, and then you fill in any of your holes. Do that and get this thing painted. Let's go. Now, you wouldn't think of Bondo as something that you can use on furniture builds, but if you think of a car with Bondo work, it's on the road hitting bumps, constantly exposed to temperature changes and everything else that we throw at it, and yet it still holds up as if nothing is happening. This is why I wanted to use it on this project. My kids over the years are gonna put a beating on this bed, and I wanted it to hold up to everything they throw at it, even if it's each other. And in my house, that's a possibility. After giving everything a good sanding with 120 grit sandpaper, I caulked all the inside corners on all the parts with paintable caulk, and I was ready for primer and paint. All right guys, this is the home stretch. I'm gonna be painting the bed, and the reason why we disassembled the whole thing is that we can paint all the components individually so that later down the road, if I need to disassemble it, I can just unscrew the whole thing, get it out of the room, and then reassemble it if we need to move it, for whatever reason. But before we actually start painting, I want to show you something really cool that I found, and it's inside of this packet. This is an additive that you actually put into your paint to make it smell good. So I've never seen this stuff, and this is not sponsored. I just saw it next to the cash register and inquired about it, and I guess it's supposed to make the paint smell for 4 to 6 months after you apply it. So I had them add it to the paint, we're gonna add it to the primer, and then we're gonna start laying it down. Man, I wish you guys were here to smell what I'm smelling, because the entire shop smells like just an amazement of clean laundry. Just snuggle me in and let me lay all over this paint.
Hi, I'm Snuggly Softness.
This stuff, I'm all over it. Get back to work. Woohoo! Spraying a large project like this obviously will make things go much quicker, but there's nothing that says that you can't brush it or roll it on. As long as you use a self-leveling paint, you should get a nice, smooth finish. While the paint on the bed dried, I got to work finishing the ladder with some India ink, which is made from carbon, kind of like charcoal. And since this is a water-based product, I needed to raise the grain first with a wet rag and give it a light sanding. This will prevent the fibers from standing up when the ink is applied and give me a smooth to the touch finish when the 3 coats of polyurethane are applied. Alright guys, it's finally time to assemble this bed. It's taken some time, so we're pretty excited. You ready?
Yes.
Let's do it. See? That was an easy start.
No, it
Alright, let's go. Since this was all prefabbed in my shop, the assembly went fairly easy. It was kind of like assembling a piece of IKEA furniture, and even the whole family got involved. It's times like this that make the long days in the shop worth it for me. Seeing them all pitch in, even if it's just to hand me the drill or crack a joke at my expense, means the world to me. The memories that we make with our families is not just an important thing, it's everything. So take the time, enjoy your family, have fun with them and love them. Because remember, when you're old and wrinkly, they're the ones that are going to be changing your diapers. So there you go, guys, the loft bed is complete, and this project took a little bit longer than I expected. In total, it took about 5 weeks, but the end result is awesome, especially since my daughter loves it, and that's the most important thing. So if you guys are new to the channel, consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification, and if you enjoyed this build, let me know in the comments section below. Thank you for joining me on this experience. I'll see you guys next time.
I'm gonna get it done.
All right, let's get to work.
Let's get it done.